again, Izzy here, and welcome back to my channel. The art you're seeing here right now is not the finished product for this video. It's from 2017 when I was full on in my Hamilton phase. This apparently was a redraw of an even older piece of art, which, yeah. But I just thought, I made a whole series of the Schuyler sisters, and I thought, this will be fun to redraw. So that's what this is. Without further ado, I should be started on sketching by now, and I'm going to kind of go over in no particular order what I emphasized in this piece that I did not in the other. It feels so weird to call it a piece. In this drawing, what I emphasized in this drawing, and not the other one. There we go. One thing I did that I didn't do last time was that I used a reference picture of Angelica, and I specifically used pictures of Renee Elise Goldsberry. I hope I am pronouncing her name right. I know there's other casts for Hamilton, like the Chicago cast, and I'm sure they're all wonderful Angelicas too. I haven't actually heard any other casts, but since the original Broadway cast is the one that's typically used for art and whatever, I just thought I'd stick with that, and that's who I was originally trying to show too. So this time, my style is relatively simple. I don't show bone structure really. I have cheekbones and chins. That's essentially how I differentiate faces. But with what I have started trying to do the best I can with it to make it actually look like the person. And wow, as obvious as this may sound, looking at the person you're drawing while you're drawing the person helps make it look like the person. I wish I could say that to me in 2017. I thought for sure that by then I kind of knew what Angelica looked like. I'd seen her enough times, I was in the fan base, and so I thought, oh, no need for a reference image. But the truth of the matter is, I think you can get to the point where you can stylize a character or a person to the point where you don't need a reference. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to look the most like them. It's going to look like them in your style at that point. But if you're not too familiar with how to draw someone, which clearly I wasn't as familiar as I thought, and and you want to make it look like them, not just like a random character with their skin tone and hair length, essentially, you're going to want to look up a reference image. So that's what I did this time. And on the topic of likenesses, I also didn't want her hair to look like a group of blobs this time. I actually don't think I start working on the hair until a lot later, but you'll see when I get there that it was quite the struggle for me, because I'm just not used to drawing really tightly curled hair. I think it's very pretty, and I draw curly hair quite a bit, but I just don't usually define it as much as I could see in some of the reference pictures of Renee. And I actually ended up changing it after I'd started putting down my base colors, because one of the reference pictures had her with relatively short hair, like about shoulder length, and I'd drawn it at about that length. But then I realized that that image must have been taken after it was off Broadway. I mean, I can't say that for sure, but it seems like Angelica has really long hair, and that's what I went for in the original image, and so I thought, you know what, I'm gonna fix that quick. It's gonna bug me if I don't. So, so that's what I did. Now, I can't give too much advice on how to draw the line art, because I just did my best with experimentation to make it look stylized. For me personally, I thought that it worked to draw out the hair as if it were straight hair, just because that's what I'm used to get the motion of the strands, and then from there try and figure out how it would look with the different texture. So if that's helpful, I don't know. But one thing I can say about drawing black hair, and this one isn't the best at showing that because I think I made the base color a bit too light, so it ends up looking brown, which is fine, I think. But if you really want to draw black hair, I think this still applies. I hear a lot of people saying to put down a base of purple underneath black hair, and I completely agree that that helps make it look more realistic, I guess. I mean, if you're drawing a cartoon, you're not trying to make it realistic, but you still want it to look like the thing. Uh, but as much as a purple base tone can help, I think I've kind of taken that concept and gone any base color that isn't black or like a gray. Well, okay, a gray, but like a colored gray. Like, essentially what I mean is you don't necessarily want a neutral gray base. You can, it'd work, but... So for Angelica, for instance, her dress is kind of a coral slash orange color, and I wanted to tie in the hair to the entire color scheme, and so I made it a very dark and desaturated version of that color. And I think I even didn't go dark and desaturated enough. But the point, I guess, is that if you have undertones of a color with black hair, it makes it look a lot, makes the shines look a lot more real, and it can just tie it into a limited color palette. Oh, I wrote a small script. It's not a script, it's just like talking points, and I don't know why I didn't put this at the start, because it's kind of the first thing I do. But I looked up a reference picture of a hand snapping its fingers, because I realized that I could not remember how to draw that, and even looking at my own hand for reference, it just wasn't looking quite right. And once I did that, now I think reference pictures are great. I used to be very stubborn about not using reference images in the past. And the thing about reference pictures, though, is that I think it's very important to try and copy it freehand, even if you're drawing a hand in the exact same position, which I don't remember if Angelica's ended up being in exactly the same pose. I think it was maybe a little different tilt, but it was the same general idea. But I still didn't copy it from the reference picture because I feel like, I didn't trace the reference picture because I feel like it's a real learning experience to not do that. To try and figure out the shapes on your own and that sort of thing. But the reason I'm drawing Angelica snapping snapping her fingers is because of the, work, Angelica. And I know that all of the Schuyler sisters participate in the snappage. But unless you guys really want me to, I think I'm going to try and draw a different hand pose for each of them that represents them. But I think the snappy thing works for Angelica quite a bit. Yeah. That's the thing about hands. This is a bit off topic, but not really. In the original picture, neither of Angelica's hands were showing, and it looks a little awkward, but not too bad because she's just standing there. But the thing is, I know why I did that, and I was not going to do that again this time. And it's that when you're not too confident about drawing hands, a lot of times you don't want to include them in your pictures because you're so proud of the rendering and the liner, everything you do on it, and you don't want a hand to ruin it. At least that's what I thought back then. But the thing is, I realized from watching other art YouTubers and general experience that if you don't include hands, you're not going to get better at hands, and that's pretty obvious, but sometimes the thought of drawing both hands can be pretty daunting. So what I do is I give myself a minimum of one hand showing, unless it's really just like self-indulgent sketch art or something. But like for most illustrations, I'll let myself leave one hand down to the side or behind the back or something like that. But at least one hand has to be showing, and preferably both. But I guess that's a good rule of thumb, maybe, if you want to improve at drawing hands, but you don't want to be drawing them willy-nilly. That one per image should be enough to get you more acquainted with it. So, onto a slightly different topic. I should be well into the coloring phase by now. And here's where I want to address the elephant in the room. Well, probably not the elephant in the room, but it is for me. In the old picture, I think both of them, actually, maybe I got it right in the original image. I think I did. But in the newer one, Angelica's dress is outright pink. I don't know why I thought her dress was pink. I mean, all of the reference pictures, they range from orange leaning salmon slash coral color to outright orange, which is why in this one I included a lot more yellows. I made it a very warm pink, like a, well, I don't know if it's a warm pink or not, a very orange pink. That's a more technical way to say it. Because that's the color of the dress. I don't know how I got that wrong so much, but if you too would like to draw Angelica Schuyler, PSA, the dress the dress is more orange than it is pink. And for the background, similar idea here. In the original image, and I'm not talking the really old one, I'm talking the one that looks better. About the one from late 2017. On that one, the background color is a greenish gradient. And I wanted to replicate the same look with this one, but the thing is, I know what I was going for in this series just based on looking at the others. They were all supposed to be backgrounds that were a dark complementary color to the dress. And as I said before, the dress isn't pink. So when it was pink, it made sense that it was a dark green, but now that it's orange, I made it a dark sort of blue. So that's why the background is no more rendered than the other one, but is a different color, because I know what I wanted to do when I made it. I just didn't succeed in doing it. So now that I did get the colors as they are meant to be, I'm pretty happy with how this came out in the end. I know there's a few minutes left in the video, but you're seeing most of the finished product right now, and there's still a decent bit that could be improved, but for a few years' progress, I really think it turned out well. But if you're interested in seeing this redraw series done again in a year or two, as long as I'm still doing this in a year or two, I think I will be, though. I mean, I'm so new to all of this, but I really think I will. So I'm going to start planning for it. You know what? If you're interested in seeing this again in a year or two, I can pick out some things that I'd like to change when I get a little bit more experience, and that includes the pose. In the original one, whether it was intentional or not, the pose was actually relatively fluid, where it was like the hair had a lot of movement to it, the body had a lot of movement to it. And in this one, I really wanted to make everything look accurate, which I think I did a much better job at making it look accurate, but in turn, what's the word? I guess I relinquished some of that fluidity in the pose and hair. So I'd like to, if I did this again, make the pose a lot more natural, even if she is still just standing. And I would like to make the hair color look a bit more black and a lot less brown, because from what I can tell anyway from the pictures I've seen, that is Renee's hair color, and I was trying to get it, but it just wasn't quite there. And I'm sure in the future I'll get even better with likenesses, because with this one I did my best, but there was a lot about her bone structure that I couldn't really get just because of the nature of my style. But I think I'm going to keep practicing with likenesses, and I think I'll find a better way to incorporate it into my style as it is. But for the time being, I like how this turned out. I think there was a decent bit of improvement from before, and I'm really happy with this. And in the next couple weeks here, I'll be coming out with the next two, hopefully, because I drew Angelica, Eliza, and Peggy in the same sort of style with the same sort of framing, and I'm gonna replicate those. I don't think those are necessarily a redraw of an old piece. Angelica started it. I don't remember if I drew Peggy or Eliza first, but I'm gonna be doing it in age order here. So if you liked this and are looking forward to more, I'm not gonna ask you to like, share, and subscribe. That's the cringe. I can't get myself to. But if you want to, I'd be happy about it. But mostly just stick around for next time, please. Whether you subscribe or just find it in a week. I'm gonna try and make my upload schedule Fridays at either 4 or 5 p.m. I don't know which yet. Um, Actually, you know what? Let me know which you would rather have. Well, 4 or 5 p.m. And the reason I say that is because when I was looking up kind of what to do for publishing dates and whatever, people were saying to do it after work ends and after school ends, which makes sense so that people can see it right when you upload it. But I know a lot of jobs end at 5, but a lot of schools end at 4, and uh, and I guess the point is, and it's on Friday, so after work people should hopefully be free. That's why I think Friday's a good day, because it's the start of the weekend. Um, oh, I'm running to the end here. Anyway, just let me know what you think about that, and thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful, joyful rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.